Hey there guys, welcome to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, and today we are starting the insanely hyped Spy Family. So if any of you guys who are the first time here, newbies here, I'd just like to give a quick introduction to my channel. Typically I always structure my video into 3 different parts. I'll have an intro at the very beginning, which you are listening to right now, you're watching right now. In the middle will be my blind reaction, and indeed for this series as well, I have not read the manga, so I'm going into it entirely blind. And then finally I will follow it up with what I call my musings section, which is, I guess you could say, sort of like a summary, a review. I like to talk a little bit about the world building, about the episode at hand, the character development, and any other kind of topics, right? And if they make any kind of references, I will try to delve into those as well. All coming, of course, again from a blind perspective. So it's sort of fun, anyways, to me to try and guess what's going to happen next, what kind of concepts the anime is going to bring, and so on and so forth. But they'll all be timestamped below for your convenience. So let's talk a little bit about this series, right? Because again, even though I have not read the manga, I know that is insanely popular and insanely hyped. In fact, like a lot of times when I am looking for some new manga to read, it always comes. This particular manga always comes up. Like it has been that way for like what, 3 or 4 years now. I don't quite remember. Like it was pre-COVID already, so even before COVID this was insanely popular. For some reason I didn't really get into it at any point in time. I wasn't really looking up to pick up any new series, new manga at that time, but the name always popped up, right? And so I know it's really beloved. I know generally, I have a general idea of what the subject matter is. You know, it's like a family that, you know, not really all of spies. I believe there's a spy, an assassin, and then there's a little girl who's like, like she has some supernatural powers or something of that sort. I'm not quite sure, but like they're not all spies, basically. I remember looking at it and thinking, hey, isn't there some movies with the similar concept? I seem to recall, what was it, Mr. and Mrs. Smith or something of that sort. And then I believe there was another movie called the Jonases or Meet the Jonases or something of that sort. So basically, this concept is not entirely new, right? Although I don't recall reading any manga or watching any anime or reading any light novels with a similar premise. That's not to say that they aren't there, just that probably it wasn't exactly a subject matter that particularly, you know, piqued my interest, right? But in any case, it is highly regarded, that much I know, and insanely anticipated once the anime announcement was made. And, you know, they are pulling out all the stops for this one, right? You got a collaboration between Wit Studios and Cloverworks, and, you know, you got some definite A-tier voice actors and actresses as well. The main female lead is played by Hayami Saari. The male lead is being played by Egechi-san. And then I believe the little girl is played by Tanizaki-san. Right. Sorry, I'm not as familiar with her works, but I also know that she's quite popular. But I mean, just Hayami in itself is probably enough to get lots of people like twisted, and Eguchi as well. For you know, he has a huge following, particularly among fangirls. So and you know, I gotta say, even as a male, his voice is fine. And beyond that, you know, they have some pretty good directors and sound directors as well. The director, Furuhashi-san, he is, I believe he did the Rurouni Kenshin series, which I did like a lot. It's actually one of my favorite animes from my childhood, although I still did prefer the manga a lot more. But yeah, I think it was a very good anime series in of it itself, right? You know, you can't really blame the director for failing to adapt certain portions because, you know, that is, I think, more of a production kind of decision rather than a director's decision. And then, of course, the sound director also, Mr. Hada Shoji-san, he is someone that I really like. He did the sound design for Sunny Boy, and I believe he did it for the Fairy Tail series as well, and also Boogie Pop, right? The new Boogie Pop, which, you know, there's many faults I find with the new Boogie Pop, but one of the things that I do not find fault with is the sound design. I thought it was quite incredible, even though some people still prefer the original. But anyways, that's kind of rambling on. The main point here is that they have assembled, like the anime industry has assembled their AA team, their S tier team for this particular anime, and who can blame them? It's insanely hyped, it's insanely anticipated. I believe 2 cores have already been greenlit, so all that's left for us to do is to see if it is any good. And you know, with everything I've been saying here, I truly believe that it probably will be a very big hit. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, is someone gonna be killed? Or is this an incident that needs to be investigated? Westelos. Oh, and No Name is doing the music production as well. Okay, this just got even more epic. I love No Name. Blackman. All right. It was a fake. Ah, this is the main character, I believe. This is the voice Akachi is going for? Okay. Or was that the narrator voice? Alright. So are we going to go through like different people's perspectives first? Or is it going to be a case where, you know, the other two are just introduced afterwards? Cold War? Alright. So I guess this is more a play on like like the actual Cold War, and when they're talking about the East, it's not like Asian, but more like Soviet Union, Russia, etc. Yeah, that's kind of that's kind of harsh. Typically, if they do want to use this kind of cover story, they would provide like a pairing to do this. I mean, if this was like an actual intelligence agency. Well, that's not entirely true. They can earn medals. It's just that they won't be credited to them. Like for instance, the Central Intelligence Agency, they have a way of honoring their specific agents. I believe it's using a medal or a star or something of that. They have like a great wall where they put it on, but it's always anonymous, and only the agency themselves know who that is actually supposed to be honoring. By the way, I know this is supposed to be a comedy, but still, I do like to delve a little bit deeper into the subject matter. There was a time when I was really obsessed with like all things spy slash intelligence agency related. Oh, this one? I believe this is her. By the way, even though there are oh, okay, there we go. So she has supernatural powers, right? Oh, is she reading minds? Or is that due to her intelligence? That's not exactly legal. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. She is a telepath. Okay, so not actually, any kind of supernatural powers. I thought she was a psychic, but now it seems that she's just a telepath. I say just, but we. Otosan versus Chichi. Okay, that's funny. Spy was. Anyways, as I was trying to say before, there are instances of like husband and wife operatives working on spy missions together, right? Intelligence gathering missions together. But I don't think I've ever really read of of a case where they also take children along with them. Okay, she is cute. She is so cute. So she likes peanuts? Alright. Well, I mean, yeah, she said so, but looks like she can be bribed. Oh, I thought he was. Okay, okay, I see. And then so he gradually opens up to her, right? Oh. Hmm. Right. I think I can see where this is going. Oh, she's bored. Uh, Why would you do that, though? If anything, for a spy, having a telepath as a daughter would probably be, it'd be like literally perfect. Hmm. Already? Oh yeah, because they pinpointed the location, eh? You noticed that the door had been tampered with. I like how they went through all of this, and uh, the entire premise of this is so stupid and over effing doopy. Uh, Wait, alright. Oh, it's in disguise. Really? Hmm. Oh, flour is flammable. Let's see. Is Anya waiting in the apartment? Or waiting over there? Papa is such a liar. Man, right in the feels. Yeah, so even though she has special powers, right, she's still at heart just a 6-year old. Huh, okay, I guess we won't see the lady in this episode. Hmm. Oh, but she did actually memorize them. Oh, she's in. Aww. Alright. I can totally see why people love this. Oh, by the way, I believe the opening is also by Official Higedandism. That's not this, though. Yeah, this is the ending song. This is by Hoshino again. So this is actually the ending song. Unlike some which like to put the opening song in the first episode at the very end. Ah, she is so cute. Ah, let's see, PTA. Yep. Okay, not necessarily PTA, but yeah. You need to find a wife in a week. All right, all right, all right. Secure a wife. That's literally the mission. All right, see you guys after this. Well, guys, you know what? I dig it. Anya is just way too cute. Now, honestly, when I was looking at the premise for this particular series, I'm not actually that good with children and all that. I'm not typically the type to go, oh, look at that cute little child. But Anya, all right. I think just similar as how she warmed her heart into our main guy's heart, she has warmed her way into my heart as well. She is so freaking adorable. All right, so I can totally see why in this first episode or the first chapter would totally get people hooked, and not to mention that the female lead is such a babe as well. Just looking at her design and whatnot, which I wasn't. I actually thought that this was going to be a case where they all sort of kind of meet in the first episode, but apparently not. We will be seeing her in the next one though. The preview has made that much clear already. So initially starting off, cool. I like how this is a mixture of heartwarming and absurdity and comedy, and still has its action moments as well. It's definitely not trying to take itself too seriously. Although I guess I should probably caution you guys first. I do have this tendency to look at it from a more analytical perspective, and especially since it is talking about like spies and intelligence agencies and whatnot. I do like to kind of sort of go back and compare it to like some real world stuff, right? I was a pretty huge geek about these kinds of things when I was younger. Since I've grown up and entered the workforce and all that stuff, I've kind of not kept up with the newest and latest and whatnot. But there was a time when I really enjoyed reading a lot about the sort of intelligence agency operations and whatnot, like the CIA, MI6, that kind of stuff, KGB, all that and whatnot, right? So obviously the first thing here that sticks out to me is how absurd it is that your main agent is left with a task of securing a wife and a child in like a week or something of that sort. I actually originally thought that this was going to be a case where they were put together, right? They were put together, and because that would be the smart way to do things. It's obviously kind of impossible for someone under normal circumstances to just secure a wife and a child. Like a child, that's the easy part, right? You can always go to an orphanage and adopt people. But even then, right? Typically, if it's not a shady orphanage, then you really need to go through a lengthy process and whatnot, because the orphanage also wants to make sure that the child are not put into like abusive parents or God forbid, even more unsavory kind of uses for children, if you will. So typically they have a screening process as well. This is obviously not standard procedure here, right? So that's why as I was mentioning before, if there was this kind of scenario where they had to have like have a family as a guise, then typically both of them would be operating under the same agency, right? It would be provided, they would be put together, and in fact there are many cases of real world husband and wives acting as duos in order to um, in order to have these kinds of cover stories and do infiltration, right? Although even then, it's not so much as actual like the Hollywood version of the James Bond kind of spies where they have to go out and do hand-to-hand combat and do actual infiltration or whatnot. It's more like subtle, if you will, and operating a network instead of having them actually do all these these hand-to-hand combat and so on and so forth. But even then, I understand, right? They're trying to build up this kind of premise, and it definitely leads to a more interesting kind of story, especially when you consider that the female, the lady who's going to be appearing in the next episode, I believe her role is, her actual identity is an assassin, right? This guy's a spy, the child's a telepath, and then the lady is supposed to be an assassin, right? And it's this kind of dynamic here that makes things interesting. I do wonder if they are ever going to actually reveal themselves to each other at any point within the anime slash manga, or is this something that's only going to happen like in the very later stages of things, or in fact maybe even near the end of things? That again, I do not look at anything in regards to the manga or whatnot, so I'm going into this completely blind. I would presume actually that they probably would still be keeping this secret from each other for a long time. That kind of dynamic probably helps set up situations a lot more. Helps set up the situations for having these sort of comedic purposes and whatnot a lot more, and also building the tension and whatnot, right? And especially since in this case Anya is a telepath, she already knows the truth about the father and potentially the mother as well. And I guess it's that kind of dynamic that's going to shape up the sort of interesting character dynamics that we will have in the future, and the character dialogues, and all the conflicts and resolutions and whatnot. So I would say probably they are not going to be having any reveal until very much later on. The rest, I guess, is kind of sort of standard. You know, we got the guy doing some normal spy stuff. I should probably call him Twilight or whatnot. Did he actually mention like what his real name was? I don't quite remember. I mean, obviously, if I go to actually, if I go to the ending credits, he's called Lloyd Fo. Oh, Lloyd. I guess this is his cover name, right? Lloyd Forger. And then of course the child is called Anya Forger. And then his code name is Twilight, and I guess he doesn't really have a real name, or he ditched it in favor of for the sake of the agency or whatnot. And actually, in a little bit of trivia, the agents typically don't call it the agency, they call it the company. And that's actually a fun fact. That's actually a thing that's been used in many other countries as well, especially when they're talking with people who are not within the same agency. They like to refer to the agency, the intelligence agency that we're working with, as company. I'm not sure if like it was mainly a CIA thing and then it got transferred to like other countries agencies as well, or maybe it even has its roots even further back in tradition in like some of the European spy agencies or whatnot. But it is actually an actual thing that happens in like here in my country. They like to refer the investigation agency here also likes to refer themselves to as company rather than agency. It's just it's just a thing that they use in normal life that helps provide a guise as well, like talking about like my company instead of my agency. If somebody were to overhear it or whatnot, it doesn't raise as much suspicion or wariness. Right. So what else to talk about in this episode? I guess not really too much. This is really more of a. I guess this is really much more of an kind of episode, right? We see the interactions between Anya and Royd here, and yeah, it's just great. And I do like that Anya, I guess it's also probably due to her being a telepath and whatnot, so she's not your typical run-of-the-mill kind of child. So even though she still has some childish tendencies, right, like crying, like throwing a tantrum and whatnot, because of her abilities and whatnot, she is more emotionally grown than a typical 6-year-old maybe. So I guess she just she falls into the sweet spot of not being too annoying, but still being very adorably sweet, right? And that's probably why, as a character, she is able to grow on me so fast and so quickly. And probably the same for Lloyd as well. All right, so anyways, this first episode definitely done quite well. Definitely draws people in. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much all that we need to know for now. And yeah, I don't really think there's too much else to talk about in this episode. Some fairly, of course, they did some fairly standard spy stuff. I don't think we really need to go into details of that. Like for instance, using code words, using ciphers. The fact that they no, it is standard operating procedure to also have a sort of telltale sign on your entrances and whatnot to see if it has been tampered with and whatnot. So that's why Lloyd was able to know that there were actually people within the room, right, within his house, because he saw that the door had been tampered with, right? It's there's various ways to do it. Some use like a piece of hair or whatnot. Some use like a piece of paper. There's lots of ways that you can sort of put a telltale sign on your door that's indistinguishable from to the normal eye. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's also the use of like telecommunication tools as well that got intercepted. So we know that the enemy is also on the lookout always for these kinds of for spies within this city, within this area. So at least we also have that in mind. I don't think Lloyd's appearance was ever blown, right? He never, the enemy never really got a look at what he looked like, I believe. Although actually the guy that ambushed him within the room, could they have gotten a good look at Lloyd's face? I think that's kind of important, right? Because once your face is blown and you get recognized, it's hard for you to actually operate in the field anymore. I'm not sure if they're really going to go so deep into this kind of matter and the subtleties of that as well. But it is some interesting future fun. Maybe it will be a conflict point in the future, maybe not. I could totally see a situation where in the future, like, his identity might be blown, and so he puts his family into danger, and yada yada yada, that kind of situation. But that is for another time, another day. Anyways, this was the first episode. I will definitely be watching the next one. Stay tuned, guys. Thank you, and bye bye.